Good morning. It's an interesting time. We've got public frustration with insurance companies so high that they're almost accepting vigilante justice, which I guarantee you is not necessary. And we're going to talk about how you can legally fight these insurance companies this week on the Monday Morning Lawyer. Good morning, everybody. It's Joe with Bowers, your accident and injury guy, right here from my Elkton office. My apologies for the past couple of weeks. I was on vacation one week and then had some other obligations last week. So it's been 2 weeks since we've done one of these podcasts, and a lot has happened in that 2 weeks. Unless you're living under a rock, you're fully aware that a vigilante has taken to the streets to take out the CEO of a major health insurance company. And the surprising thing to me is the support that this individual received. And I kind of understand where it comes from. I'm certainly not accepting of or condoning violence to solve problems. In fact, as somebody who offers a solution that's nonviolent to many of these ailments with insurance companies, I completely don't agree with going out there and taking people out. But I understand the why. Insurance companies, and in this situation, we're talking about a health insurance company. In my world, we're talking about auto insurance companies. These folks, as far as the game plan is concerned, they're brothers and sisters, they're cousins. They are thick as thieves. They're in the same game. Collect the premiums, keep the money. And how do they do it? You've heard the catchphrase, the scrawling of the deny, delay, depose. In my world, it's deny, delay, defend. Same concept. But here's what it really boils down to. Number one, nothing that I handle on a regular basis, but in the health insurance world, a lot of this stuff in these denials are absolutely, as projected, being processed and denied by AI. AI is a great tool if used properly, and it is an absolute train wreck if it's used sloppily, which sounds like is happening in the health insurance world more and more these days. Statistically speaking, and this is where it really comes from, somewhere around 10%, just 10% of health insurance company denials end up being appealed. So, without going into any sort of details into an area of law that I do not regularly practice, if you are having difficulty getting things paid by your health insurance company, I'm not talking about in an accident setting, I'm talking about in any setting, make sure you appeal any of the denials. Work with your doctors, because sometimes the documentation that they're looking at and looking for in order to approve these claims is getting more and more detailed. Sometimes you have to play that game. But what I want to talk about today is the legal way to hold auto insurance companies accountable for claims that they need to pay. And the answer to that question is hire counsel, file a lawsuit, take the case to trial. The trial process is a little bit stacked. It's an arduous process. It's long for the client. If we were to file suit in a case today, meaning that the accident happened some time ago, but we're filing the lawsuit today, it may be almost 2 years until we pick a jury, try the case, and get a verdict. Now, a lot of these cases settle along the way, but one of the things in this process that I've mentioned in the past, and I think is super important to mention in the future, and obviously today, is the fact that when you are in a trial setting, it is the injured person versus the individual who caused the accident. Again, I'm specifically speaking about auto accident claims and the way that they look in the courtroom. It is A versus B. However, and B is generally, and obviously if there's a commercial company or something we've talked about, Amazon accidents and whatnot, if there's an employer-employee relationship, that company oftentimes will be part of the lawsuit. So it may be, Jane Doe versus John Doe and insert the company that John Doe was driving for. So you may get the commercial defendant sometime on there. But what you don't see, and we're not allowed to tell you, is that the insurance company who insures John Doe, or the insurance company who insures the company that John Doe works for, ultimately, when the jury deliberates and they render their verdict, John Doe's not paying that claim. The insurance company's cutting the check and paying my client. If we settle the case somewhere along the process, John Doe's not being asked to pitch in. John Doe's already paid his or her premiums throughout the process. They've paid to have this claim defended. They've purchased an amount of insurance that presumably the insurance company has done the math on to say, hey, we're going to make money on this claim if the claim needs to be made. Because remember, they're quoting these premiums in anticipation that an accident may or may not happen, that a claim may or may not be able to be paid. But the important thing to note is that more often than not, in a courtroom trial setting, the case is party versus party and has no indication of who's actually going to pay the claim. So, circling back to the topic for today, how to legally hold insurance companies accountable, and that is in the courtroom. Find an attorney, hire an attorney, make sure that this is an attorney that actually tries cases, that actually files lawsuits, because there are attorneys out there that will do everything that they can to settle this case without having to initiate a lawsuit. Obviously, that is not our firm. Some of these attorneys will do everything that they can to settle the case along the process. We're certainly looking out for our clients' best interest. If we can resolve these cases and put our clients in the best situation possible, and a settlement is the way to do that, then we're going to do it. If we're doing so in a way where we're getting all of the available insurance money and there's nothing else to go and get, there's no way to get a judgment against the at-fault driver. I mean, you can get the judgment, but sometimes collecting the money is next to impossible. These scenarios, generally speaking, do not set up for the individual to pay any portion of that claim outside of the regular premiums that they've paid to their auto insurance company. We dig into all of that. We dig into whether or not there's additional insurance available somewhere else, which is sometimes a factor, whether there's umbrella coverage, that comes into play sometimes. All of these things are factors that we're going to dig into. You don't have to worry about. As the client, your job is to get the medical care that you need, get back as close as you can to prior to when this accident happens, and let our office handle the rest of the process, because that is what we do all day, every day. As you've noted from these conversations, from these podcast episodes, from everything that we've talked about, my office exclusively handles these auto accident cases. Occasionally, there are like 1 or 2 cases a year that are still injury cases that are a little bit different than auto accidents that we'll handle, but that is super rare. That's not even 1% of the cases that we handle here at Bowers Law. Anything else, especially if it's a question that you might want to bring in to info@bowerslawmd.com, something on a different topic that we might talk about here on the podcast, I guarantee you, if it's not about auto accidents, I'm bringing in somebody that handles what we're talking about. We've had people talk about criminal stuff. We've talked about expungements on here. We've talked about wills, trusts, estates. We've talked about other types of injury cases that other attorneys handle. Rest assured, if you've got questions for us that you want covered here, we are going to bring it to you with an expert that handles it. But again, remember, vigilante justice, don't do it. Call us, hire an attorney. And remember, it's an insurance company That's the bad guy. I am certain in 99.9% of these situations that the individual who caused the accident, that caused the injuries, wants nothing more than the insurance company to pay what they owe and to be done with it. I guarantee you they do not want to go to trial because there's nothing in it for them. They don't want to be subjected to sitting in a courtroom for 3, 4, 5 days to testify about their involvement in this accident, which ultimately has very, very little to do with what the claim is worth, what the extent of the injury. Sure, they caused those injuries, but ultimately, these insurance companies, they're going to be the ones that pay the claim. They're the people who pay the attorneys to defend the cases. They not that hurt. We had a little bit of a glitch there. I'm not sure what's going on. Hopefully, that was just my audio that disappeared there. That may be a sign to wrap this thing up. As always, Monday morning, obviously, if I'm out of town and there's, we'll do them next. We're going to be doing them every Monday throughout. The Christmas and New Year's are in the middle of the week, so that should not have any sort of negative impact on our schedule here to do these on Monday mornings. So as I've said before, if you have questions, accident related, law related, or otherwise, please, info@bowerslawmd.com. Shoot us an email with that topic. If it's not accident related, don't worry. I'll be able to find somebody who knows the answer to that question, and we'll come on the podcast, and we're not going to call you out about your specific situation. Confidentiality still applies. However, I will get a guest on the show to generally speak about the topic in which I was asked so that we can bring it on here. Just make sure you reference that you want. That's the important thing. I'm not just, you have to say that you want the question answered on the podcast or some version of it, because I'm not digging through emails where people contact me and say, hey, I need a lawyer for X, Y, and Z, and then I refer them to a trusted colleague. That's not making the podcast. You got to tell me that you're actually asking a question for the podcast. That's an important thing that maybe I haven't mentioned in the past. Otherwise, I'm not going to talk about it on here because of confidentiality. No names will be named. As you know, we've never have named a client, never have named a situation or who's specifically asking a question unless it was asked within the live chat. That obviously makes sense. You're putting something out in a public forum. Everybody sees it as you're asking the question. In fact, the general public probably sees it before I see it. So anyway, with that being said, enjoy the holiday season. Stay safe, stay warm. We're now getting into the cold weather finally, even though we're mid-December. Where's the year gone? Looking forward to continuing to share more of this knowledge with you. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an accident, give us a call, hop on our website. We are happy to help. It's what we do. I'm your accident and injury guy, Attorney Bowers, signing off. Until next week, be well.